Welcome everyone to our interactive live webinar, the UDL Framework and Culturally Relevant Pedagogy Together Forever in partnership with State Support Team Region 7 and OCALI.
Hi everyone, welcome. My name is Heidi Kamensky. I am a consultant at State Support Team Region 7. So glad you're here.
And I'm Ron Rogers with OCALI. And we understand your time's important and we want to have you engaged and learning at a high rate. So with that said, please take a look at your chat window where it says to raise your hand. You can raise your hand there and we'll try to watch to see if any hands are ever raised. And then to interact with us, please type all the things in the question here area, which you can see with the arrow. And then we'll read those things out loud. Let's try a test. Please type into the question box if you're alone or how many people are sitting with you. And I'll read some of your answers. Okay, it looks like, oh, there's two of us, alone, surrounded by cubes. Mostly everybody's alone. Some say they're solo even. Full people at the end of training. Oh,
that's exciting.
I'm alone, but sitting in a room full of people. Oh, okay, that's cool. All right. Okay, if you're a person that likes to tweet as you learn, feel free by using hashtag UDLPLN. There's a benefit to having conversations in the background and answering each other's questions or telling your own personal stories in this back channel. We'll monitor the tweets as time permits, and we'll check them after we're done and get back with folks if we need to. All right, you'll see down in your box where we actually showed this earlier with the link. Feel free to type in the link and put your own, personal selfie posts, pictures of yourself in there, and also all the handouts from our webinar in there. And you can share your ideas if you're not wanting to tweet. We're excited to introduce to you the new look of the UDL framework. It's organized by access, build, and internalize. See the tabs on the left, and the bottom one says goal. We are going to focus on the top level across, which you can, as a teacher, can create and facilitate access to create and incorporate culturally responsive practices using the UDL checkpoints. In today's webinar, again, we'll be focusing on that top row across, which is called access.
In this visual, you'll see just because you are right does not mean I am wrong. You just haven't seen life from my side. How often do we see this in a classroom? We fail to see how the student came up with the answer they have come up with in this situation. We need to value multiple and diverse perspectives. Seek first to understand before being understood. It takes time and understanding to come to some form of agreement and appreciate other people's perspectives. We hope you will do the same as we progress through our webinar today. Our ICAN statements. In order to personalize our webinar, we have two sets of ICAN statements. The first set are introductory ICAN. I can avoid using negative labels. I can recognize poverty and income as another form of diversity. I can consider cultural differences when designing instruction, planning lessons. I can identify areas in the UDL framework and develop resources to promote culturally responsive and responsive curriculum. The second set of ICAN statements are at the intermediate and advanced levels, so you can choose your learning outcomes for today. We also hope that you will use these ICAN statements. I can be aware that my instructional manner must communicate a belief that all learners, regardless of differences, are capable of becoming expert learners who are purposefully motivated, resourceful, knowledgeable, and strategic goal-directed learners. I can have an awareness and respect for culturally relevant pedagogy and the universal design framework. I can be aware that CRUDL is a process that promotes educational equity for all students, reduces prejudices and stereotype, and promotes appreciation for diversity, which is an integral part of everyday teaching and learning. When we talk about culture, it can become very personal. We hope you will be open to diverse perspectives and other ways of thinking today and respect our webinar norms. Be open to new ideas and concepts. Participation is a right and a responsibility. Please be fully present. Be honest and open with your answers and respectful to other people's answers.
All right. Heidi, it's time for a poll. So everyone, please answer honestly. Do you intentionally seek out books and materials about others' cultures? And I'm going to go ahead and select the poll. I'm going to launch the poll. And now you all have a chance to type in your answer. Yes, no, or should, but do not yet. So, do you intentionally seek out books and materials about other cultures? Yes is 69%, no is 3%, and 28% is should, but do not yet. Thank you all for being so honest. Okay, the first thing that we've put here on your screen is, who is Neil Armstrong? In the question box, please type your answers. Who is Neil Armstrong? He's an astronaut. Very good. Astronaut, an American astronaut. Neil Armstrong is landed on the moon, famous astronaut, first to land on the moon. We just see the poll. Hopefully you see Neil Armstrong now. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Not a lot of diversity in the answers.
No, not really. Oh, here's one, Purdue grad.
Oh, somebody knows that he's a Purdue grad. Okay, one out of...
Oh, look at Barbara said dad, scientist, pilot, explorer.
There's some diversity.
There's diversity. Okay, next slide. Who is Charles Schultz? Please put your answers again in that same box. Let's see. Cartoonist. Creator of Peanuts. Author of Charlie Brown. Boy, these things are flying. I guess when you have this many people on a webinar, it's hard to catch them all here.
But a lot of them are relating to the Peanuts and
yes.
as a cartoonist.
Yes. Father and artist.
I see a father and artist on there.
That was Barbara again.
Ah.
Born and died on the same day.
Not a lot of diversity again in the responses.
Lots of diversity. Born and died on that same. Oh, man. Okay. I bet one of the things you didn't know was he suffered from Asperger's syndrome and depression. And Charlie Brown was shy and withdrawn and felt very socially awkward, a lot like his main character, or Mr. Schultz did, like his main character, Charlie Brown. So with that said, we'll go to the next picture. And you already know how this question is going to go. Who is Katherine Johnson? Please answer again in the box. And it's okay to say you don't know. Scientist, no idea. I really don't know. Possibly a mathematician. Math whiz, mathematician, worked at NASA. Female NASA engineer. Now they're coming in flying. I looked her up and she's a mathematician. First African-American woman to work for NASA. Graduated from high school at age 14.
Some people are using their resourcefulness and going on the internet.
First black woman to attend West Virginia State College. Johnson calculated flight trajectories for Project Mercury and the Apollo program. Alan Shepard and John Glenn. Pioneer, brave and courageous. You're all so good at this. Let's try one more. Who is Mary Jackson? And if you don't know, just put you don't know. Okay, no idea. I don't know, not sure. NASA engineer. Scientist.
Don't know.
Mostly don't knows. Still don't know.
Definitely less people and fewer responses.
A lot fewer responses. Well, we're going to leave it up to you guys to Google that one when you have a chance, because we're going to move on to the why. And if you'd like, you can use your UR code reader, or you can type that in if you hadn't already and put your why in the form. Okay, Heidi.
Why was it easier for us to recognize the names of famous white males and more difficult to recognize the names of women of color? Our curriculum is very monocentric. Most of our education and cultural experiences are through a European cultural lens. In general, we are taught to value whiteness, maleness, and money. While you may or may not agree, when we look at our greatest institutions, the presidency, with the exception of one, they all have whiteness, maleness, and money in common. Our government, entertainment, movies, most movies cast white males as the leads. Do these institutions reflect diversity? This is what we are exposed to. With this in mind, We each have our own cultural experiences we bring to our learning and to our pedagogy. The intent of this webinar is not to look down on our European cultural heritages, but to create pedagogical practices for the inclusion of all people, including people of color, those with exceptionalities, those with varying socioeconomic status. The goal is to think about how we might bring about educational equity. This is just one of our whys. Another why could just simply be our country is becoming more diverse, our schools are becoming more diverse, and we're hoping that you also will tweet your whys. Why is culturally relevant pedagogy and universal design for learning important? And we hope that you can tweet it, post it in the Google Doc or in Padlet. But here's another why. We have the Heidi research. We now have the Consumer Reports of Education. For those of you who don't know about Heidi, it is the result of 15 years of research and synthesis of over 800 meta-analysis relating to the influences on student achievement for school-aged students. We now know what works and does not work. This is the Consumer Reports of Education. Heidi developed a hinge point, 0.40. It's that middle point, and it equals 1 year's growth. So for example, we know that ability grouping has a negative 0.12 effect size on children. Children, if we do nothing on average, will naturally grow a 0.15. Yet we see ability grouping done daily in schools. If you didn't get a chance to watch the OLAC video we sent you, we encourage you to do so. On the other hand, not labeling students has an effect size of 0.61. Heidi finds the effect size of teacher estimates of achievement to be 1.62. That is a huge positive effect size, hence why it is critical for each of us to recognize we have unchecked implicit bias that has an enormous impact on our students. And if we look at teacher-student relationships, it has an effect size of 0.52, compared to teacher subject knowledge at a low 0.11. Yet we get caught up in what we teach rather than getting to know our students and developing those crucial relationships and what they want to learn. You can use these links for definitions. We're combining universal design for learning, multicultural education, and culturally relevant pedagogy so that we can create educational equity. It is about reaching educational equity, removing barriers to achieve educational outcomes for all students, regardless of race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, economic status, exceptionalities, all forms of differences, visible and invisible. We each have our own cultural experiences we bring to the table, and we need to be aware that culture plays a significant role in learning. These links you will find helpful in finding working definitions and scaffolding for building your knowledge. CAST and the National Association of Multicultural Education are great resources and places to start. This next visual is our why, right? So in the first image, we're seeing everybody treated the same and not everybody has access to the game. In the second visual, we can see that there's some supports and they're being treated equitable. However, we really want to get to the third image. And this is where everybody can see the games without supports and accommodations, and that we really can get down to building equity for all and removing those systemic barriers. We are now going to connect the UDL checkpoints with culturally relevant pedagogy and ideas and activities. So what does this look like in practice? Checkpoint 7.1, optimize individual choice and autonomy. Regularly provide opportunities for students to have choice. Yes, choice in topics and opportunities to contribute their knowledge and perspectives about a lesson topic, and seek out student background. Use the knowledge to plan and sequence a lesson. Take the time to survey your students. Try using the Seesaw app to gather family perspectives and feedback on projects to learn how to offer choices that are relevant to students. The app will let you share pictures and exchange funds of knowledge. The next checkpoint, optimize relevance, value, and authenticity, 7.2, recognize that most curriculums provide limited cultural perspectives, so it is important to select supplemental curriculum and resources that provide information about contributions of diverse groups. Seek out and find accurate portrayals of historical events and cultural groups, and have students do the research. Purposefully connect cultural funds of knowledge. It is so important to connect that prior knowledge. It can be as simple as a back-to-back activity. For example, have all your students find a partner and face back-to-back. Let's say you're going to teach a lesson on fractions. Have the students think about what they personally know about fractions, where they have seen fractions, then have them turn and face their partner and share their knowledge of fractions with a partner. This helps them connect that prior knowledge before you jump into fractions. Another idea is to develop a community service project that develops student advocacy for social justice and equity. Have students select the project so you are connecting choice, relevance, and authenticity and adding value. Start by visiting these two websites and try an idea. Teaching for Change and Rethinking Schools. These can be found in your handout of the top 10 equity websites found on Padlet. Another way to connect UDL and culturally relevant pedagogy is to continue to work toward an inclusive curriculum that does not honor just certain dates, months, and holidays. The month of February is Black History Month. March is Women's Month. It is seen as an add-on. We want to get to a place where diversity is intentionally embedded into the curriculum, not just 1 month a year, but every day. This can be done by providing critical thinking time to design learning activities around identifying biases found in textbooks, television, mass media, magazines, and other curriculum materials. Ask learners to update and change materials to reflect diversity and eliminate stereotypes of the culturally different. Intentionally select materials written by culturally different authors and about culturally diverse populations that contain inclusiveness, and show historic contributions of children, women, and men of different ethnic and socioeconomic backgrounds. Much like we have learned earlier about Katherine Johnson and Mary Jackson, with the world of technology, it's easier to find the contributions than ever before. You can also make sure your students get to experience guest speakers or see talks from diverse individuals who are in different positions of power and success. The next checkpoint, 7.3, minimize threats and distractions. You can utilize the PBI's framework and resources. Take the pledge of, I can take personal responsibility before blaming students for their disengagement. I will consider what I am doing or not doing to contribute to the student behaviors. Seek first to understand before being understood. This goes back to our graphic we showed earlier. I see the 6 and you see the 9. As we see gun violence and bullying grow in our schools, it is imperative for us to implement a positive behavior intervention and supports framework and intentionally create mixed groups for cooperative learning experiences so students can learn to appreciate differences and different perspectives. There's a large body of research showing the positive effects of providing collaboration and discussion experiences in your classrooms. Cooperative learning outcomes include increased self-esteem, intergroup relationships, acceptance of students with various academic abilities, better attitudes towards school, and 21st century teamwork skills. And this is documented in Heidi, Hess, Slavin. It results in positive interdependence. Some great resources we have posted on Padlet include Project Aware, PBIS, and a YouTube video on the 8 dimensions of wellness. This was sent out earlier. We hope you were able to watch it.
Checkpoint 1.1, when we look at perceptions, provide options for perception. It offers ways of customizing the display of information. Have students develop and use tip charts. T's for team, I's for information, in their own words. P is for picture, their mental model. Visual, show an example. Have students submit a picture to represent vocabulary words and show them in class at a learning station. Use one of these resources. For example, students can customize how they display the information. And you'll notice the udlcenter.org implementation is put on the Padlet. It's the link that we're talking about. Another thing you can do is examine your classroom walls, hallways, libraries to ensure photographs and pictures and bulletin boards, maps, and other curriculum materials reflect diversity and your students contribute. Ask yourself, do my classroom materials reflect diversity, learner variability, or am I using mainly the textbooks? Next checkpoint, 1.2 and 1.3 offer alternatives to auditory information and visual information. Try to offer both written and verbal directions. Solicit student feedback and be responsive. Offer both and find out what your students' preferences are. Advocate for a translator for your families and for your students. They're great resources such as use text equivalents in the form of captions or automated speech to text, voice recognition for spoken language. Provide visual diagrams, charts, notations of music or sound. Provide written transcripts for videos or auditory clips. Provide American Sign Language, ASL for spoken English. Use visual analogs to represent emphasis and prosody. Example, emoticons, symbols, or images. Provide visuals or tactiles, things that might even have vibrations, equivalents for sound effects or alerts. Provide visual and or emotional descriptions for musical interpretations. Checkpoint 1.2, view the examples and resources. Provide descriptions of text or spoken for all images and graphics or videos, animations. Use touch equivalents, tactile graphics or objects of relevance for key visuals that represent concepts. Provide physical objects and spatial models to convey perspective or interaction. Provide auditory cues for key concepts and transitions. And then checkpoint 1.3, view examples and resources. Vary the methods for response and navigation. Give student choice. Use menu boards. Recognize that students do not enjoy the same level of access to educational materials and resources such as computers, the internet, and academic funds of knowledge. Seek student input as to what access they have and what barriers they have. That's an important one. The next one is limit homework barriers. Homework is a responsibility grade. Hattie has it having a low effect size. How can I have students think critically and ask whose story is missing? Optimize access to tools and assistive technology, 6.2.
That was a lot of information. So here's a visual and the big picture of what we just discussed. What can you do to move toward culturally responsive practices and UDL? So it's really connecting that culture with the checkpoints and thinking through these examples. Next, we're going to move to provide options for physical action, checkpoint 4.1. Vary the methods of response and navigation. Give student choice in 4.2. Optimize access to tools and assistive technologies. Lots of technologies, resources. We encourage you to see the CAST link and utilize it. There are some fabulous resources. We've also provided a link to a graphic called 101 Ways to Show What You Know. Give those students the choices. Use the menu boards and rubrics, offer choice. Use a four corners activity, chalk talk, walk the line. For example, if I asked each of you to take a stance on a line that you see in the room, 1 being on one side, disagree, and 10 agree on the opposite side of the room, that intentionally incorporating culturally relevant pedagogy and UDL into your classroom is important for educational equity and student outcomes, where would you go? Take your place on the line, and then we would have you share out and defend where you went. This is also a great pre-writing activity. Another example is to have a social. For example, if we were all in the room, stand up, find a partner, and discuss one thing you are willing to learn more about and try in your classroom, and then go find a new partner. This gets you up out of your seats and incorporates movement. Try it in your classroom.
Oh, here's that poll question we've been promising. Answer honestly. One thing I could do or am willing to try. So I'm going to go to the polls. I'm going to launch the poll. We did get 71% of the vote before I closed it. And I'm going to share those votes. And there we can see, use the UDL framework, 32%, affirm student differences, affirm strengths, 24%, utilize the Padlet from this webinar, 21%, recognize poverty income as another form of diversity, 12%, and recognize disabilities as another form of diversity, 12%. So that's the numbers, and this time I'm going to hide this so you can continue to see our slides. See, I do learn. And there we go. You should be able to see the slides just fine. And the next one's just kind of an overall piece that you can look at and read on your own. What can I do to support culturally relevant pedagogy and UDL? And I'm going to go right down to the bottom, and that is seek family as partners in learning and connect to funds of knowledge. And you can use engagement representation to do that. We need to be connecting with our families without a doubt.
Remember, by doing nothing acknowledges that you support racism and the status quo. We strongly encourage you to, the poll you just answered, that you go and you try something and test it out and see how it works for you. And what can you do to move toward culturally responsive practices and universal design for learning? We're hoping that you will really take the time to connect to your students' funds of knowledge, and that you will try to incorporate some projects and some choices and let them determine what they want to do and learn, and really connect to what they want to do. This next graphic is really what we really want you to do, and that is to change the story. This is how we appreciate differences, recognize learner variability, and we get to liberation. And we really want you to be the change so that those fences and all that stuff can be taken down so we can all reach liberation.
So, what's been your golden nugget? Reflection from this webinar. Please use the chat box or Padlet or Twitter, or even if you have a partner, and discuss, what's that one gold nugget that you walked away from today from this 30-minute webinar. And while you're doing that, we're going to continue with our slides. The UDL environment supports culturally relevant pedagogy. You really don't need a crystal ball to be able to support an environment of equity and liberation. Join one of the best chats on Twitter, #UDL Chat, 9 p.m. Eastern Time every first and third Wednesday. And if you enjoy learning 24/7, that hashtag is open 24/7. Thank you for your time and engagement during the webinar.
Thank you for your time. I hope you will be the change. Bye, everyone. Have a great evening.